Hey there, Citizens Pal here, and welcome back. So we're still talking Star Citizen ships, getting ready for CitizenCon. We're going through the second half of the list. This is part two, obviously. I'm not going to do the whole intro thing and everything. If you want to know how I'm prioritizing all this, go watch the first few minutes of the primary video. This is the second half of it. Where we're continuing on, we're picking right up with the Endeavor. The Endeavor is going to be a lot like the Starfarer, where it's going to be one of those ships that organizations are going to want to have access to. And if you're one with one, people will be very happy to be friends with you and everything. There's with the R&D and the production stuff and everything, this thing should be quite desirable in-game as an organization type thing. Personally, I don't really want to own an R&D ship that's just a big, easy target for other people to come destroy. It's not my thing, but definitely can understand why people would be interested in having one of those, especially with its interesting modularity and the different pods you can change out and everything. Yeah. The Saber. Saber's probably the easiest to recommend fighter overall. It's in a little bit of a rough spot right now, just simply because its shields aren't where they're supposed to be, so sometimes you get shot, and even though your shields are up, it goes through your shields and into your hull. It's kind of broken their tankiness a little bit. It's just a bug. Easy to load out. It has 4 size 3 hard points, so you can either do 4 size 3 weapons or 4 size 2s. Just reliable, fast, maneuverable. Overall, it's a very good fighter. It is up there, same price range as that of the Super Hornet in that 170, 175 range. But yeah, they're great fighters to fly around, and I don't know why I don't use mine more. I don't know why I prefer the Arrow to it. I'm going to have to go back and fly this thing more, because I shouldn't. This thing should be better than the Arrow overall. But for some reason, I still go to the Arrow more than it. I don't know. Okay, the Saber Raven. This one's a little bit different. So the Saber Comet and the Saber, same ship. This just has a different livery and weapon loadout by default. The Raven you can't actually buy. I don't think they'll even sell it here. This is for buying one of those special Intel Optane drives. You can get the Saber Raven. So it's a stripped down Saber. You have half the firepower, but you pick up an EMP generator. And EMPs, they might be great. Sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're not. But it's not really one to talk about because it's not going to be on sale. It's a promotional item with Intel Optane. Crucible. Everything I said about the Endeavor, everything I said about the Starfarer, pretty much the same thing in line with the Crucible. The difference things though with the Crucible is though it's a repair ship. So this will allow, a damaged Saber, it's missing part of its tail, come in, land in, out in space. You're basically a flying space repair platform and everything. Some people, that's going to be super interesting. You're going to want to have one in your organization, in your fleets, something to use. You're always going to be desirable. I don't want one. The P-72, same thing I said about the Merlin, pass. It's a snub fighter, no quantum drive. There's nothing really to do there with that. If you just want a status symbol, I guess you could have that. But if you have the ship that it goes to, you'll have one. If you don't have the ship that it goes to, then I don't see a real reason to have one. Blade. Literally everything I said about the Scythe and the Glaive applies to the Blade. The Blade is a little more usable if I remember. Its weapons can be gimbaled, but it's not very powerful as far as fighters go, and you're paying the alien tax on it by quite a bit. I'd pretty much pass on it unless you just want, again, a status symbol, a rare ship in your fleet. But if you're going to do that, I don't see it in the Blade. It's really not there. Prospector. If you want to mine, the Prospector is the ship to get. It's fine. It's a good little handy ship to have. If you're into that side of the game, the manufacturer side of the game, not my thing. So yeah, but there's nothing wrong with the Prospector. I'm looking for a ship that mines in the middle. You have the Prospector on the small end, then you have the Orion on the big end. I want to see something more like in the Caterpillar size or Connie size that does mining. That's kind of where I'd like to see it, but yeah, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with the Prospector. It's good. Drake Buccaneer. I would say slightly pass on this. This is a fun little fighter. It's very fast in a straight line. They call it interdiction. It's not interdiction. It's interception. There's no EMP generator on this. Nothing like that. The big thing about it is it has a top ball turret that can fit a size 4. you might even be able to fit a size 5. I think it's size 4, which is really heavy punching power for a ship of this size. Now, the trade-off is this thing can't take a punch at all. It has almost no survivability, no durability at all in it. So it's just a super glass cannon. A fun ship to fly around in. I probably wouldn't pay. I know I wouldn't pay cash for it. It's a ship I would earn in game and just dork around with every once in a while. But you take it out knowing you're probably gonna die. The Dragonflies, the yellow jacket and the black. These are fun. They need a little bit of TLC. I almost forgot the acronym again. They're awesome down on planets, swooping around and everything. They feel a little slow compared to before, but I think that's to keep you from killing yourself, so the server can keep up and everything. I like them. I have one in my fleet. I will always have one. It just gives me something to do planetside to mess around with. The one real problem I have with them right now is they actually hover too high off the ground when you're trying to get them onto a ship. So if you try to put it in the back of a Cutlass, you fly in, and you're kind of at a good level where you can stop and land and get off of it and everything. And as soon as you change over to the physics grid of the Cutlass, well, all of a sudden it tries to compensate and put you at like 6 feet in the air again, and then your head's into the top of the ship and you're killing yourself and things are blowing up. And they need a way that you can change how high you ride it off the ground for loading it into ships. That's kind of like my one big complaint about it. The Argo series, the MPUV, personal and cargo. For now, pass on these. These are something to play around with in-game. There may be a role for these later on, like moving just quickly, like you have two, let's say, two Idrises, and you got to get personnel and cargo from one to the other and everything. These guys might come in handy there, but they have no quantum drive. They have nothing else. They are fun to fly. I have a video. If you search through my channel, you'll find a video from about a year ago. Me just flying around Port Olisar with this. I used to quote-unquote role play. Basically, when new players would get in on Port Olisar and they try to meet up with their friends and they'd be on different landing pads, I'd pop one of these things out and I'd just run like a little taxi service around Port Olisar, moving people from one pad to the other for that. And they're fun, but there's no reason to have one at all. Terrapin. I'm going to say pass. The Terrapin is supposed to be like an Explorer Pathfinder type ship and everything. I just don't... As exploration ships go, I would take the Freelancer one over it, the Dura over it, obviously the Carrack over it. This thing's going to be smaller and more usable than the Carrack, but it's not going to be way more usable than the Freelancer, and I just don't see it. Like, they're talking about some scanning stuff, and maybe linger on down the line when we have different scanners and different things for different ships and stuff. You know, maybe the Terrapin turns out to be really good at finding hidden caves. Well, then maybe there'll be a reason to have it, but for now, there's no reason for the Terrapin. The Polaris. This ship, I'm big into this ship. There's going to be another one coming up later on, the Hammerhead, that I'm a lot less big into. For me, the Polaris and the Hammerhead are comparable in size, price, all of that stuff. The difference is, we'll just cover right now. The Hammerhead, for the Hammerhead to be effective, there's a whole bunch of things that are going to happen. A, turret gameplay has to be good. You're going to then need to have 6 people manning the turret, so 7 people in the ship, or they have to also have the working AI that is also then good at manning the turrets. And there's just a whole lot of mechanics that if they come together, the Hammerhead is going to be a monster, right? They show the initial concept of the Hammerhead is fleet escort. It's shooting down incoming torpedoes and all kinds of stuff. And if they can get where when you're in those turrets, you're flying around and you're tracking targets and you're picking out the torpedoes and you're blasting them and they're accurate and all of that stuff, it's going to be great. But to have to commit 7 players or 1 player and 6 AI and then hope the AI works, it's a very much a one-trick pony. The Polaris, on the other hand, is not a one-trick pony. So you can see there's got a landing deck up top here, which is going to allow it to... you're going to be able to bring in a fighter, you're going to be able to repair a fighter, rearm a fighter, and all of that stuff. It's got torpedoes. It also has the turrets. It's also going to be fast and everything. So I just think the Polaris also has a medical bay, if I remember correctly. So there's a lot more that the Polaris can do than the Hammerhead can do. The Hammerhead's probably going to be, if things work out well, a better pure combat ship. But if things don't work out well, the Polaris will be the better combat ship and the better utility ship overall. So for that reason, I'm actually a big fan of the Polaris. I do have one of these. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. It was kind of a stopgap in working my way towards maybe owning a Kraken. Like, okay, I'm now this much in, so I'll hold that. And then I'm kind of sitting on it to wait and see when it releases, how it holds out, because this will probably be in before the Kraken, if I had to guess. The Prowler, the first dedicated dropship on the list that we've come across so far. There is the hoplite for the Vanguard series. So let's go on a minor rant about dropships right now. I don't see their usability in-game all that much. So this thing here is going to be able to carry, does it say how many crew? 10? I don't know. Whatever amount of Marines is going to be able to bring them in and drop them off. So we'll say pilot, co-pilot, 10 Marines, 12 people there. Would you rather have 12 people in this one ship delivering them in, or would you rather have 12 fighters all coming in, suppressing the target? Once things are down, people get out and unload and go. For me, I always go to the 12 arrows or whatever coming in and doing the exact same thing as what this thing will do. Now, there is talks about this thing being a little bit more stealthy, maybe tough to find and everything. I really struggle to see where in gameplay this is going to work. Now, there is one dropship a little bit later on that we'll come across that there's a little bit of an argument for it, mainly because in addition to the crew, it can also deliver vehicles. You can bring in, the rover, the Ursa rover, or even I was able to get 2 terminal cyclones in the back of it. So with that thing, you could bring in 8 Marines plus vehicles to carry those 8 Marines. So maybe land outside of the AA defenses and then they drive in and everything. But with this thing here, they're just coming in on foot. You basically got to drop them on the doorstep. Otherwise, they're walking 30 minutes across the open terrain of a planet or moon or whatever. 85X, this is it's an origin ship, so this is form over function. It does absolutely nothing for me. There's nothing wrong with this ship. There's no cargo capacity. It's a Sunday cruise type ship. I'm just going to go out. I want to have the roof down, sun in my hair, and all that type of stuff. Obviously, it's a spaceship, so that doesn't count, but yeah. For me, this is a pass. The Misk Razor, this is, along with the M50, kind of the other big racing ship, dedicated racing ship. There's also a racing variant of the Mustang, a racing variant of the 300, a racing variant of something else I'm not thinking of, I think, right now. If you're into racing, this thing looks like a Formula One car. It's kind of cool. I do like the aesthetic of it, but I'm not going to buy a racing ship right now. The Hurricane. Hurricane's an interesting one. This thing could be an absolute monster, and it might not be also at the same time. This is a lot like a little 2-person hammerhead. It really is. This is basically a hammerhead turret on a single fighter. And if the turret gameplay gets to be really good, this glass cannon could come through, and this thing could absolutely destroy fleets. Some of these coming flying in and everything. When they first came in, I flew around for one for a while, and the turret gameplay just was not there, and we don't know if it will be there to really justify what it is. If having a Super Hornet would have been preferable to this thing when it first came in game. As things balance out and change, this might have a purpose later on. So, Banu Defender. This one surprised me. If you look back my two previous videos ago, I went into pretty in-depth into this ship. I was not expecting to like the Banu Defender. Since this thing has gone into game, I've used this and the Vanguard roughly equally overall. It's just, there's no major weaknesses on this thing. So it's got good firepower, good firing arcs. With that firepower, easy to keep on target. It's fairly maneuverable, fairly fast, but not crazy fast, fairly tanky, easy hardpoints, loadouts type stuff, a good cockpit. Then you also have 2 beds. You got the co-pilot seat. You have the entryway area to drop down packages and parcels. The only downside it doesn't have a lot of hydrogen fuel. So if you're doing combat missions and everything, about every 30 minutes you're gonna have to run and get hydrogen fuel. There was a bug where you couldn't refuel it. That's been fixed, but it doesn't have large fuel tanks on it. So you'll go through fuel, like I said, 30-ish minutes, give or take, with doing a lot of combat flying. But other than that, this thing really surprised me. At $220, this is probably the better buy over the Vanguard Warden right now. Probably. I think so. Yes. Kind of. The Aegis Eclipse. A ship we don't see a whole lot of, the Stealth Bomber. This thing, again, depending on how the mechanics work out, similar to that of the Hurricane, that of the Hammerhead. This thing, if the stealth mechanics work really well, people get good at it and everything, this thing could be a nightmare. You're just flying along and all of a sudden some size 8 torpedoes? Size 9s, it looks like? 3 size 9s hit you. Boy, that could be devastating. And you don't know where they came from. The guy gets within 20 kilometers, launches them, and then just flies away and you never get a radar blip. This thing could be terrifying. I've not seen it use too much effect yet so far, mainly because there's not a whole lot of targets out there for it, and not a lot of people own this ship because when it went in, the stealth mechanics really didn't work. The Nox, if you want a hover bike like the Dragonflies, but something that's different, the Nox is perfectly fine. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's whatever one do you prefer, really is which way I would go if you want to have a maglev bike. Dumbo Cyclones, highly recommend. Highly recommend. If you want to spend, I think these are like $45, like $35, $45, somewhere in there, depending on the variants. If you want something just to play around with down on planet surfaces and everything, these things are a blast to drive. They're so much fun to drive. You're jumping off over rocks and getting air and everything, and the suspension's going nuts. I enjoy taking this thing out all the time. Highly recommend having one of these, especially if you have something like a Freelancer or even a Cutlass, that you can get them in the back. They're tight, but they will go into the back of those. They're good fun craft or buggies to have. Ursa Rover, if you have a ship that you can get this thing inside of, sure, why not? They're slow, especially compared to the Cyclone, they're slow and everything. Eventually there should be some interesting gameplay around them because these things do have like an interior where they can have like sensors and type stuff like that. Right now there's just not a whole lot to do with them though, other than drive slowly in circles around moons, where I'd rather have a Cyclone doing the exact same thing. 600 series. Same thing as the 890 Jump, same thing as the not the Merchantman, but the Genesis Starliner. Form over function, they're impressive. The amount of detail's cool. I don't really want one. I have no desire for one. Yeah, it's not my thing. X1 base, these are other maglev bikes. These were revealed a long time ago. They're from Origin. The Nox and the Yellow Jacket are in game, so you can actually use those. So I'd recommend those over these. When these come in, maybe we'll give them a try and we'll see. Maybe they'll be better than the Yellow Jacket or the Nox. Pioneer. If you want to be everyone's favorite builder when they eventually get stuff in, the Pioneer might be a very good investment into the long term, your future into the game and everything. Being able to go down and build structures on planets for people, set up bases and everything. The Pioneer is going to be highly, highly sought after. There's going to be a lot of people looking to buy your services, probably. We don't know how the game's going to shake out and everything, so that's all probable. But if it does get implemented the way they are aiming, what they are trying to do, having a Pioneer, if that's the thing you want to do, it's going to be very desirable type ship. The Hawk is, I think, a soft pass, not a hard pass. The thing about the Hawk, so it's a bounty hunting ship. You do have one restraining seat in the back. You also have an EMP generator. When bounty hunting actually gets somewhat implemented, we have non-lethal takedowns, and we can, grab people and throw them into the back seats and turn them in and take them to prison and whatever. The Hawk might be desirable, but as it is right now, it's kind of just an average fighter with some really cool designs. I do like the way this thing curls up like a bird when it lands and then unfurls as it's taken off and everything. I really like that. But its firepower is a bit lackluster. It makes sense because it's supposed to disable people, not kill them, but it doesn't really fit in too well right now in-game overall. It's not bad, it's just also not great. Hammerhead, we've gone pretty in-depth in this thing already. If the Hammerhead plays out the way they want it to, the Hammerhead could be a monster. But you're going to need 7 bodies, not necessarily people, some of it might be AI NPCs, but you're going to need like 7 people to run it effectively, maybe even 8 or 9 people to run it effectively, and it relies a whole lot on certain game mechanics really working out well, and I don't know if they're there. I don't know if they're there. Nothing to really talk about for the planetary beacons. That's just planetary beacons. Nova tank. I love the design of it. You know, it's kind of like one of those massive tanks from Warhammer 40k. That's really cool. I mean, look how little this guy is standing next to it and everything. The reason I hesitate is, boy, is this thing just a massive target for any spaceship flying around up above. And there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of spaceships flying around up above. So in order to use one in an effective manner, I have a tough time seeing where it's going to fit in. But God, I hope they do find some way. I do have hopes with this thing in a troll type manner. We'll talk about that later on because it has to do with another ship going in. Vulcan, another repair ship. I think this one, similar to the other repair ship. Now, this one, you're not going to be going in and like, with the Crucible, you can like basically take a ship, and if you have the materials, you can rebuild the missing tail, the missing wing or whatever. I don't think you're going to be able to do that with the Vulcan. The Vulcan's more going to be like, all right, your armor's kind of dinged up and everything. We're going to weld you back together and kind of get you flying. People will probably want these around to help out a little bit, but it's not going to be quite as desirable as the Crucible. But sure, it's a repair ship. We'll have to see. It also refuel. That could also be helpful. Though it's kind of hard to run out of fuel right now. We'll have to see how that happens. Entry-level Origin ships. Okay. If these have, let's see, did they say they have any cargo capacity? 2, and 6. The question will be, do you get in via the side, like right into the cockpit, or do you get into the back where there's like a little entry area? If there's a little entry area, these could be the new go-to primary ships. We have to wait and see when they come online. Right now, you're probably not looking to buy an entry-level ship like this. Hercules. This thing should be quite cool. It's not something I personally want to have, but you can see here them unloading the tank, the Nova tank. So these things have a lot of capacity. The bombing one sounds like it could be devastating. These things could also be fairly reliable cargo runners. 624, 406, you know, they give up some. But as like a tanky cargo running, if you want to, you know, you're not moving massive amounts of cargoes, but you're taking cargo into a hostile area, this thing should be a little more tanky than, say, like a Caterpillar or whatever. There's some real possibility here with these things. Yeah, I overall positive. If you're looking for that bomber type experience, I think these do have potential. I don't see any major flaws or downsides in them. Vulture, light salvage. When salvage comes online, we'll have to decide then. Looks a lot like that one ship from EVE Online, like an awful lot like that one ship from EVE Online, which was a miner. Sure, salvage could be a good mining maker. It's the salvage equivalent of the Pioneer. So probably, yeah, recommend if you're looking to get into salvage. The Apollo Triage and the Medevac, is that what they're actually called? They named them different things? Oh, they're called Apollo, RSI Apollo, Triage, Medevac. If you want to be a space ambulance, I guess. I don't want to be a space ambulance, so this does nothing for me. The Star Runner, we hinted at this one a little bit at the beginning of the last video. The Star Runner, so we're talking Connie size, constellation size ship. That it's more built around speed, maneuverability, maybe a little bit, not really stealth capabilities, but just being hard to track and everything. And then also some data running and everything. I'm not sure where its gameplay elements are going to fit in, but I really like the design. I really do like the design of it. I have one in my I have one waiting for it to enter into my hangar. I don't know if I'll keep it or not. It really depends on how the other mechanics are implemented, but it looks like it's going to be a fun ship to fly around and everything, and yeah, so I'm highly interested in this one, just not 100% sold that it's going to work the way they want it to. The Valkyrie. So, we talked about dropships. The Valkyrie is the one dropship, and I suppose also you could make the argument that the Hercules could also be a dropship. The Valkyrie is the dropship that you can get 2 Cyclones in the back of, or 1 Ursa Rover, plus then a bunch of Marines and everything. So the Valkyrie could be that one guy where if you need to drop off 8 guys, 5, 10 clicks out, and then they move in because, say, maybe the AAA screen is so hard you can't break it, that would be where the Valkyrie could come in and be usable. That'd be the one reason I'd actually look at this. This is the dropship from Aliens. It really is. It's more usable than the other dropships, but it's also more expensive. It's a good design. I'm just still not sold that dropships are ever going to be that viable in game. I'm just not. So that's the one thing that makes it tough to recommend. Kraken. We talked about this again in the beginning of the other video. I think this is going to be the mainstay for most medium-sized organizations. This is going to be their central capital ship. When this thing gets in game, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm super excited. I am, depending on what they show at CitizenCon and everything, I'm going to recycle my glaive. Well, I've already recycled the glaive, but I got the currency sitting around for that. Might recycle my Polaris and get one, to have one for the company, for the organization, when we do get that in game. It's a big investment. I probably wouldn't add any additional money in. It would just be, all right, I'm going to get rid of this ship, this ship, this ship, this ship, combine that money together to get it. That's kind of where I'm leaning on the Kraken. But yeah, it looks to be really cool. The question will be, how durable is it? I mean, it is a Drake ship, and so far, whenever it's a Drake ship, the question of durability comes up, and rightfully so. But being a large capital-sized ship, I mean, it's about the size of a frigate, should be reasonably durable. Arrow, I've gone over in depth in the previous video. Super recommend. If you're looking for a light fighter that's just a joy to fly around with, has a lot of working loadouts for it, can just take out and go dogfighting whenever, the Arrow, easy, high on the list. Yes. The Santo could, yeah. So another one of the weird alien Aopoa fighters. This one is a wait and see. It's a wait and see. We have to see like what its armament's going to be, how easy its weapons are, how maneuverable it is compared to how durable it is. Yeah, that's kind of where I am on this one. The SRV, the Argo SRV. So I mentioned with the Nova that there was one other ship I wanted to play around with. So this is the tow ship. It's the tractor beam ship. What I want to do is I want to go out to some place like, say, Grim Hex, and I want to use the tractor beams on this thing to place Nova tanks on asteroids and use them as defensive fortifications, protecting things coming in. I don't know if it'll work. It'll probably not be effective at all, but it sounds fun. This ship probably is going to be used by a lot of people to troll people. And for that reason alone, I'm kind of interested in it. I'm not interested in being a tow truck, but I am interested in the fun gameplay mechanics that having a tow truck could have, if that makes sense. Corsair, high on my list, highly interested in. Super want to see this thing in game. I really hope it comes in 2020. We've already talked about it quite a bit. It's Drake's competition with the Constellation series, with a high focus. They call it exploration, but it's a high focus on firepower. And that sounds cool to me. The motorcycles, I think I have one of these. I don't remember if I do or don't. If they're even 2/3 as fun as the Cyclone, they might even be more fun than the Cyclone. For a little $25-$30, whatever they cost, yeah, I'm interested in having one of those. That to me is just an easy, yeah, give me something to play around with that is fun. The Ballista, on its own, I'm not too sold on, but several ballistas working together with maybe several Nova tanks and everything else, now you start to get to a combined arms group that can potentially protect itself from spaceships above and everything. The concern is you would need a whole lot of ballistas for how many spaceships there are up there, or potentially how many spaceships could be above you to shoot them down and really provide you cover and everything. I do like the SAM, like it looks like a mobile SAM site and everything. That's cool. That's fine. I don't plan to own one, I don't think, but yeah, I like what it's going for in game. Then we have the Nautilus. We're almost done. The Nautilus, I did a direct video on this. I have no interest in owning a Nautilus. I am interested in flying around in one, seeing one. Their interior looks pretty cool and everything. What the Nautilus does for me, though, there's a lot of potential gameplay mechanics that could work within the Nautilus. So how does its mines, turrets, whatever you want to call them, they're mines, they're turrets though. how do they're not turrets, they're sentry drones, that's it. How do they determine friend from foe? So is there going to be friend from foe, like beacons on ships? Can we then hack those beacons? Can we duplicate them? Can we make our own and everything? Can we fool these things into thinking when we're friends? There's a lot of potentials there. Can we get in close to these turrets, maybe hack them and turn them against their own people? I like a lot of the potential that could happen with this ship. I don't want a mind layer though. That's just not the type of gameplay I'm personally looking to have, but I'm happy that it's designed the way it is, and look forward to seeing what it brings gameplay wise. The RSI Mantis, I haven't covered this ship. This is the current concept. I think it's off sale now. It's a pass for me. There's too much in the mechanics around the quantum interdiction that I don't feel are fully fleshed out for this ship. I know people saw this initial concept and they were really worried about this being a ganker ship and just there would be all kinds of craziness. The fact of the matter is there's a whole lot of design they have to overcome to get this thing to work, and right now it's just very lackluster in my opinion. The ship itself isn't designed to be a combat ship. That's fine. But you can create a bubble. The bubble's 40 kilometers across. This game, even in its small form right now, 40 kilometers is nothing. So the chance of actually getting in front of someone and interdicting them is very minimal. Even when they do add in mechanics, when you can see, okay, you can predict this target's traveling here to here, we can predict our intercept point, maybe get in front of them and get that bubble deployed out. Well, then you're in a ship with size 1s. So unless you're already in front of them, the best you can do is match their quantum speed. If they're anything larger than size 1s, they're going to be outrunning you in quantum. You're going to have a tough time getting in front of them. Yeah, I don't see how this thing's ever going to be effective. They would basically need to make that bubble 500 kilometers, basically. Now, that creates a whole bunch of other problems. Basically, now that it's 500 kilometers, does the target come out at 450 kilometers away? You guys can't even see each other. So it has to more be, in my opinion, a little bit of a tangent here, by the way, a gravity well rather than a bubble. So you project out this gravity well that has 500 kilometers across. Ships hit it. Now, if the ship hits it just on the outer edge and is just grazing it, it will slightly turn their trajectory. They'll pass out the other side, and they'll just be a little bit off target when they come out wherever they're traveling to. However, if they hit it closer and they get close to the center, the closer to the center, the stronger the gravity, it more pulls them in, and maybe it bends them more and more until eventually they're within 20 kilometers of you, at which point finally the gravity is so much it collapses their quantum field, they come out, right? So you can snare targets that are up to 500 kilometers away from you, but they're going to come out relatively close. This also gives people that are paying attention, oh shit, we're being caught up in something. You have 10, 15 seconds to react because it takes a while for you to travel that distance and come in, and maybe you're slowly slowing down as you get more and more into higher gravity before you come out. That's kind of how I think the system has to work. The way it is now, no, Mantis, I'm going to say pass. So, okay. I'm sure a lot of people disagree, but I think that's the fun of the conversation. Let me know what ships you like, which ships you're hyped about, which ships you're looking forward to. Maybe you're picking up this Citizen Con through all that stuff. Yeah, let's have that conversation down below. Until next time, this has been Power. Thanks for watching.